As you're becoming familiar with this whole notion of narcissism and how it works, you have undoubtedly come across that term gaslighting, and I've spoken about it in other videos. And I want to go a little bit further into that with you today because I want you to see that part of the gaslighter's goal is to keep you confused about the legitimacy of your emotions and interpretations and your general mannerisms. They want to let you know that you don't do life very well. They, of course, the narcissist, they think things, well, correctly, and they have to just keep you in line. And so what they'll do is they'll look for certain cues that they see in you, and then they like to pounce on you. And they like to kind of prey upon you to let you know you're defective, there's something wrong with you, you need to think like I do. And so I'm going to get into some of those cues that they may look for in you because I want you to have that awareness. But before we do that, I want to just give you some examples of how the gaslighting might work. And I want you to be thinking, does this ever happen in your world with that person? For example, let's suppose that you had an event and you come back and you speak to that narcissist and you say something like, you know, thus and such happened, and I really had a good time. I felt like I had a good connection with this friend over here during that event. Well, the gaslighting narcissist may look at you and say, do you really think that's what's going on here? Because I know that person, they've said some crummy things about you behind your back, and I think you're being pretty gullible when you say that was a good time. That person's not nearly the friend that you think they are. And you're over there thinking, well, I had an entirely different interpretation. Or it may be that you'll say something like, I was at work and I was having to share a project with this person, and man, they were so difficult. Well, the narcissist may say to you, well, the word on the street is that you're the difficult one. You're so argumentative and nothing ever pleases you. It doesn't surprise me that you didn't get along with that person. So again, they try to throw dispersion upon you, and you're wondering, well, no, that's not what I thought. But the narcissist says, well, that's because you just don't see things very well. Or let's suppose that you are speaking to the narcissist about a problem that the two of you are having, and so you attempt to confront that person. And so they look at you and say, I'm truly amazed that you have that interpretation because that's not what happened at all. And so they can go into the invalidating kind of thing. Anything like that ever happens? Or let's suppose you have a situation where you were going to go on an event with a friend and that friend has to cancel. And then you say something to the narcissist like, yeah, that kind of disappointed me. And the narcissist may put an entirely different spin. And they may say something like, well, you know why they canceled on you. It's like they're messing with you. And they just don't have any respect for you. And you're thinking, no, actually, they had a family emergency. It's like, no, that's not it. And so they put interpretations onto events that obviously leave you in a poor light. Or let's say that you're in a home situation and you make a comment that says, I just don't feel like I have the same financial privileges as a person in my status should have. And the narcissist may say, you know, you're so lousy at managing money, when in fact, maybe they're the ones that are just going off and spending money left and right and not being very responsible with it, but they come back and tell you how awful you are. Those are some illustrations of what I'm talking about. That's how gaslighting works. You have an event, you have a desire, you have an interpretation, and the narcissist comes back and says, let me explain to you why you're wrong and I'm right and how you just don't see life very well at all. And if you're exposed to that very often, then it's going to start you in the process of wondering, well, maybe is there something wrong about me? And so I want you to know that the gaslighter is picking up on certain little times or cues from you that says, I can now move in. They're like a predator who's going after the prey. You're the prey. And so notice there's certain things that you might inadvertently be living out and they're picking up on. For example, one of the cues that they may pick up on is they wait for you to express some sort of emotional or relational vulnerability. That would be one illustration. For example, let's suppose that you're talking with them about a situation and you're sharing some hurt or need or emotion, and they can come along and say, I don't even know how you came up with a conclusion like that, because now that you're talking on a personal level, it's like I can step all over that, and they will. And if you're a sensitive kind of person and you're someone who really wants things to go well, you might be second guessing, thinking, well, now that I've shared some things personally and I've heard myself say it and you're interpreting me this way, is there something wrong with me? Or another cue that they can pick up on is maybe you'll just confide personal issues with them. You may say something like, for the longest time I've had this wish, or I've had this desire, or when I'm around this group of people, this is the feeling that it creates in me, and here's what I hope that I can do. So you're just kind of going in and confiding and sharing a bit of your inner person with that narcissist. And as long as you're confiding, they think, all right, now I can jump in and have my way with that. And so they may give you some advice that you didn't ask for. They may give you interpretations about how you're really not looking at it very well, but your confiding and your sharing form of communication gives them the sense that says, time to move in. Or how about another one? Let's suppose that you've made an error or you've miscalculated. And now you're coming to that narcissist and you're discussing some of the mistakes that you've made. Now, for them, that's just like throwing red meat in front of a lion. It's like, yeah, well, you actually did make some errors. And in fact, there's some that you missed that you need to talk to me about too. So when you try to speak like a healthy person and say, I need to talk out some of my deficiencies and I need to talk about some of my humanity, the narcissist shows themselves to not be very safe because they're that predator. They're looking to you as their prey, and your confessions are going to bring out the fangs in them. Or how about another one? Let's suppose that you're just discussing them and you confront the narcissist. And you say, there's some things that I'd like for you to understand so that you and I can have a more fair exchange. And you're trying your best to have an adult-to-adult conversation. Well, the narcissist is going to look at that as another opportunity to jump and say, well, if there's going to be any kind of adult conversation around here, it's not coming from you because you think like a kid. And so they'll try to take your efforts to confront and to create a more harmonizing kind of relationship as an opportunity to say, let me explain to you one more time why you don't do relationships right and you need to listen to me and do as I say. Anything like that ever happen? Or how about this? Let's suppose that you are in a situation where you need to ask that person for forgiveness. You know that you've done wrong, and so you go to them and say, hey, look, I know that I made a mistake, and I know that you were upset with me, so here's what I'd like to do as a restoration kind of a gesture. And instead of them saying, well, thank you, I really appreciate that, they can look at that as an opportunity to lecture. Well, you know what? I'm sure glad you can see this, because this is just one more illustration of how impossible it is to live with you. And they can just go on, and you're saying, hey, I'm trying to bring some healing, and you're just opening up the scab all over again. That's what they do. Or how about this? Let's just suppose that you are the kind of person that likes to be helpful, and you're being very attentive. And so they're just seeing that you're being in a servant mode, and that's a nice thing to do. But the gaslighting narcissist may come along and say, I didn't like the way you handled this, and I know you had good intentions, but that didn't turn out very well. Anytime you put some of your personal or vulnerable self out there in front of the narcissist from these various angles, rather than the narcissist looking back thinking, well, this presents a good opportunity for us to engage in a much more compatible way, that's not what they do. Narcissists don't have empathy. Narcissists must be superior. Narcissists are always looking for an angle to show that they are the ones that are going to be in control. And so they don't have that sense that says, I like learning about you in the sense of knowing you more fully. They like learning about you so that they can pounce upon you. So knowing that this is their game, and they can have all of this disorienting kind of communication toward you, I think we need to take a look at a few things that you can do so that you do not get caught up in their clutches and you're not just going to be easy prey for them. Now, the first thing that I want you to consider is you'll need to acknowledge within yourself, as this kind of pattern continues to unfold, I'm not dealing with a safe person here. And so rather than trying to apply the best and the healthiest ingredients towards that narcissist, and what I mean by that is, I'm going to share with you and I know you're going to want to share with me. I'm going to respect you knowing that I'm going to get that back. Rather than trying to assume that that's the case, you have to kind of put on your guard. I hate to say it like that because guys like me like to coach folks up to be the healthiest kind of person they can. Be that around somebody else, but when you have an unsafe person, you have to acknowledge what you're dealing with up front and just know that you can't have that full openness that you would normally want to have in a healthy relationship. And then a second huge thought is, check your gullibility levels. When that narcissist is gaslighting you and trying to make you doubt yourself, do you buy into it? Do you start thinking, well, I guess since that person said it, I must be a bad person? Or do you have your own well-conceived ideas about who you are, realizing, just because the narcissist speaks with a whole lot of authority and certainty doesn't mean that they're correct. And I need to make sure that I consult within myself about what I understand truth to be and compare and contrast. And when I find that that person is not on target with me, I'm not required to go into that. Or another thought, and this is kind of sad to say, make sure when that gaslighting narcissist seems to have turned off the switch and they're being really nice to you, that doesn't necessarily mean they're being really nice to you. It can mean they're setting you up. And so it's sad to say that their friendliness can't be received as just pure friendliness, but you always have to keep in mind there's a history here, and this person has an ongoing trend and a tendency to show themselves to be approachable and all, and then boom, they come back with some sort of insult or some sort of a sabotage of who we are, and I need to just keep in mind who I'm dealing with. And then finally, one of the things that I would encourage is, as you are dealing with this kind of a person, keep yourself accountable to other people. There may be some other folks that you genuinely do trust who may pick up on the fact that there's some unhealthiness here, and they may want to speak into that. And if someone says, hey, I noticed that this person tends to be kind of critical toward you, or there's an impatience, and I hope you realize that I see it too. Well, allow yourself to open up to folks who are trustworthy and who can consult with you in a fair-minded way so that the narcissist isn't the only person whispering in your ear. Now, it's kind of sad that we have to just recognize there are times when you have to make room for people who are manipulators and they're exploiters. But the bottom line is there it is. And so knowing that this gaslighting is one of their favorite techniques where they try to keep you unhinged and doubting yourself, I think there needs to be a real strong commitment on your side where you think, I want to learn who I am and what I believe. I want to have a sense of honesty about the way that I interact with other individuals. And the stronger you are in your own image of who you are, then the less vulnerable you're going to be when they try to make you their prey target. Now, I hope that these discussions are of benefit for you. I hope that you're able to have that self-awareness and insight into human relations in such a way where you're moving in an upward kind of way and in a growth kind of way. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. Beneath the video here, you're going to see the subscribe button. I encourage you to hit that. And when more videos come along, then you'll be apprised of that. We have some links to some of my books and some online workshops that you might find helpful. And just know that I really take it seriously when you allow me to be a part of your personal life. And I will see you next time.